meetings here, and I already have the translation set up. Joe, would you mind doing the initial?
Sure. Buenas noches, como siempre tenemos interpretación, se pueden escoger el lenguaje de español o el inglés, y bienvenidos a todos, gracias por haber venido.
Okay, it looks like we have both of our interpreters on it, so we are set.
We're good to go?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we'll call the meeting to order, and I know that Director Pyros is going to handle the flag salute.
All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty for justice for all.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Mhm.
All right. The whole review of the agenda tonight, a little bit different kind of a meeting. We are in a work session, so we're starting off with old business, and we have a policy. Then we have new business. We have to approve an OSBA nomination to the legislative policy, which is Director Pyros. Approve the cell tower lease, which Nikki Fowler will walk us through. Approve the amendments to the bank signatories. Nikki Fowler will walk us through. And then we're going to go into a work session with our first thing we'll be discussing will be how we do public comments and the procedures moving forward. And then if we get that far, we have a few other things. For example, our meetings in October, in person or Zoom, and get the board's input on all those issues. So if we get that far. So right now, I'm going to ask Vice Chair Director Shannon to get into the old business there around the motion 28 and 13.
Yeah, my understanding is we have two options. One is we can amend motion 13 to remove some of the language, or alternatively, and this is, I believe, what our board attorney Tyler Smith is recommending, we just rescind it outright. Is that correct, Tyler? Is Tyler on the call?
Yes, that's correct, Vice Chair Shannon. That's my recommendation.
Okay, in that case, I move that we resurrect motion 28 to rescind motion 13.
I second that.
Any further? Brian, I'm gonna let you go ahead and lead that through there.
Well, you should just call for discussion.
Okay, I can do. I'll be jumping there. Any discussion right there, you guys?
Yeah, Brian, could you please clarify for the people in the public following along, what would this motion do?
This would rescind motion 13, which was the directive to the superintendent around flags and signs that we passed back in August.
And then the next step would be to make another motion.
No, if we pass this, then it just rescinds that motion. And then we go on with the rest of the agenda.
But don't we have to, because part of that amendment or part of that motion included directing the policy committee to address the issue, and since we've already done that, how do we rescind that?
Well, we would simply be rescinding the motion and the directive, which is Tyler has, our board attorney has said that's completely fine to do that.
So I'm confused. So then it wouldn't go to the policy committee anymore.
There would be no existing directive under motion 13 any longer.
correct me if I'm wrong on this. I think the point is to rescind this motion and the next point of business will be to accept the policy on second read. Thus making it no
Correct.
longer.
They're two
directive,
different,
making it a
separate,
policy.
they're two separate agenda items.
Correct. Correct. I'm just trying to clear it up, some of the confusion.
Yep. So, Mr.
May I-
Chair, if there's no further discussion.
Wait. May I thought that the board package said that we would need to make a motion to approve that it goes to the policy committee, since we've already done that. Just so that why it went to the policy committee.
What our legal counsel has advised us is that from a legal standpoint, the safest thing to do is to rescind the motion in its entirety.
Okay, can we ask him about that resolution, the directive that was sent to the policy committee? What
Well,
is that? Is that left hanging?
Technically, the policy committee could draft policy without any directive. So the fact that that directive was there doesn't really amount to much.
So we have the motion now. If we do rescind this and vote on it now, then it's dead. And then we move forward. Is that how I'm hearing this?
The August 10th motion 13 would be dead.
Okay. So we have a motion, we have a second.
I have a little bit of more clarification. So earlier in this meeting, Tyler, you said that was your recommendation. Why is that the recommendation?
Sure. Thank you, Director. My recommendation, I think formally, the procedural process that should be followed, in my opinion, is to first vote to remove motion 28 from the table, because you guys voted to put it on the table last time. You then first take it from the table, and then that puts it back on the agenda for today, and then you vote whether you want to rescind it or not. That's what I think is the technically correct procedure under your policies and Robert's Rules of Order.
In that case, I will move to remove motion 28 from the table.
But we already have one motion on the, do you need to amend the motion that's already on the docket?
No, it sounds like this motion is needed in order to proceed with the motion that was made earlier.
It was probably out of order to vote on it before, when it was still on the table.
So it's just a parliamentary question. So I've made the motion to remove it from the table.
So again, this is to remove 28 from the table right now.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
All right. Okay. Call for vote.
You have to ask for a
There's
second.
second.
Oh, I thought we already had that. Do we have a second on that?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Okay. Those in favor of moving 28, please raise your hand.
No, we're getting feedback.
Excuse me? I'm sorry.
I think there's another device. That's why we can hear the feedback.
Yeah, it's another computer here. Sorry, guys. There we go. Sorry about that. So please raise your hands again.
You should just mute one of those devices there.
I'm trying. Sorry, guys. There we go. All right. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, so that goes 7-0 on the vote. All right. Next up, Director Shannon, go ahead.
Well, as far as passing motion 28 goes, I feel like I've already introduced and we've had discussion. So if there isn't any further discussion, I would suggest you just call the vote.
So we already have a, go ahead, sorry.
All right, clarify one more time, please, what the board's voting on.
Motion 28, which rescinds motion 13.
Okay. Any more discussion right there? Do we have, okay, again, we're going to call for a vote on this. Everybody good? Okay, all those in favor of this motion, please raise your hand. We are 7-0. Thank you very much. Okay. Director Shannon.
All right. So next up is discussing the adoption of policy GBG, staff participation in political activities and ensuring safe environments to learn policy. This is our second read. We had the first reading in our last meeting. And so now we are voting on whether or not to adopt the policy.
I would like to make a motion that we refer this to a superintendent standing committee of 6 staff members of various persuasions and 2 board members from either side of the faction.
Point of order, this same motion was presented at the last meeting and defeated.
It's a different motion. It's a different motion. It's for 6 weeks, not for 6 months. And it's a specific targeted motion, and it's different than the previous one that I raised the last 2 times. So I will say I'm moving for a superintendent standing committee of 6 faculty members who can be involved in this, with 2 school board members, 1 from either side, and with a limited six week to determine what the problem is and find a solution by talking to students and parents and coming up with a solution for the discussion we've been having.
I'll second.
I feel that this is something that will bring us out of the debate between this, and that it will turn it over to the educators, and that we will show the educators we have listened to them, we have heard them, we trust them to come up with something that is equitable and also meets every student's needs, which is something that we've heard again and again. We need to reach out and make every student safe. And by coming together as a faculty and as a board, we can regain trust and show trust and respect to all sides. And that it's not where you guys, where people will feel, well, you're giving up on your principles. No, your principles are there. It will show that you're an empathetic and collaborative leader, and you can build a consensus through this action. And it gives us a chance to step aside from the turmoil that we've been through and through the incidents that have been happening to our students who are affected by what we've done.
I guess I would also say to that, just, I understand how you're saying that, Rebecca. I think that we've also drawn this out some of the factors are in our control and some of them aren't that have happened this summer. We need to get moving back towards education on this. And I think that it's one of the things that the community is anxious for that. I know the students are. And with any type of policy like this, we can sit back, move forward, and then get people back to the table. And once we've moved past this kind of vote, this type of motion, that we can put together people in a room and find out what truly the best moves forward. We've never done that, not in my time on the board, on such a difficult issue. But we need to get moving back towards education right away. We've been derailed for quite a while. And so that's why I don't agree with that. But I mean, I do agree with people talking. Staff are important, parents are important. But it's time we, tonight get some type of closure, good or bad for some. And then as we move forward, we'll probably have to put extra time in. I'll lead it with you, Rebecca. I'll come back and sit down with community members and staff members on a ad hoc committee. And I'll do it with you. But right now I feel like we've tested the time limit on this to the point where you have to make a decision. So that's how I feel about that.
Dave, I totally disagree with you that this is going to get us back to education. I think the implementation of this policy is going to completely put people in their camps, and the resistance is going to not quit, and the extremism that we saw over this weekend is not going to quit. And when we rush it, and in the face of strong community opposition, you are not going to be healing any bridges. The only possible way for this to come to any kind of consensus is to have those conversations prior to the adoption of this policy. The policy has several things wrong with it. And if we're going to go through it and look at it all, we can definitely, I'll have that discussion right now. The motion on the floor is regarding suspending it so that we can have a community group interacting with it. I think any work you do after that is going to fall on deaf ears. You're not going to get people interested in doing this, and people are going to become more entrenched. I also think that's the point of this. I think the point of this is to show that you are trying to sow division with extremist views. You have no interest in listening to community. And I think, quite frankly, you're fearful of getting a group together to discuss this, because overwhelmingly our community has shown us that they do not support these extremist actions. I think you trying to hide it behind education is ridiculous. This has never been about education, and nor will it help us focus on education.
Well, I'm going to try to be polite here. That's absolutely false. We have, it's not overwhelmingly for this. We have a very divided community. We've been divided for about 16 months now. And we know at that time frame what happened. We're divided. Our country's divided, our community's divided, and it can stop. It can stop right now if you, me, and the people in this community will just stop all the things that they've been doing. Stop the hate speech, stop the talk, stop the going after people, their personal lives, their friends. This has all got to stop. And if we stop it, then the people in this community can sit back and say, okay, take a big step back, and we can move forward. Everybody needs to take a big pause here.
The only way to stop this is going to be not jamming it through, which is what I think will probably happen tonight. So I just want you to have clear expectations of knowing if this passes this evening under these current situations, it's not going to come to a peaceful conclusion where everybody just forgets and moves on and goes into education. That's what I'm trying to tell you. The time to stop it and come to consensus is now. It's not after the adoption of the policy.
And
if I
how
may-
else
ahead,
can we build, how else can we build trust if we don't willingly say, okay, we're going to take a breath here and let the educators and 2 board members work this out, really hammer it out. I've been on the policy committee for 3 years, and this policy did not get proper vetting through it. And I think that we could actually show our students we're willing to educate ourselves on their needs and on all students' needs, and show that we respect our staff and our teachers and our superintendent, and that we can respect the differences that everyone has and find ways to come together to make a difference for our students that are affected through this divisive action.
If I may add, when you say this will stop, how I take it from my lived experience, this was a direct attack on people's existence, and existing is resisting. So if by saying it'll stop, I'm not going to stop existing, which means I'm going to continue resisting. And so are these students, and so is everybody in the community. So for me, this isn't going to stop.
It would stop if we really did truly care about the kids. If we stop thinking about adult agendas, it will stop if we stop at least to take a pause from how people have been acting in our community. It'll stop if we lead that by example on this board and stop doing that. That doesn't mean there can't be a discussion down the road. That doesn't mean there can't be talks about that.
Dave, I agree with you 100%. And that stopping is right now. This is where it can stop. And that's a choice this board has to make.
You're right.
So I oppose the motion. I think we've spent way more oxygen on this issue than we should have already. I don't want to spend 5-6 more minutes on this issue, let alone 6 more weeks. And this policy is so innocuous. It just says that teachers can't display political symbols at work while they're on school time. That should not be controversial.
But
And so I oppose this motion, and we should pass this very mild policy here tonight.
That's a ridiculous attempt at trying to pretend that this is nothing. And maybe it is nothing to you as a white privileged male, but it's a really big deal to a lot of our community and a lot of our staff and a lot of our students. And there is no reason to hurry with this. And the only reason I'm suspicious of why you would choose to hurry up and finish this is because you're moving on to other things. And it has nothing to do with centering student voice, nothing to do with centering staff experience, everything to do with your own political adult agenda, just like Dave said.
It has nothing to do with the political agenda. Nothing. Zero. Completely. It's our viewpoint that this is healthy for our schools. People in this community feel the way you feel, and there's other people that feel like this is a bad policy. We didn't even have flags in our schools a few years ago, except
Mr. Chair, I would say that we're getting into the discussion of the policy itself, and I think we should call the vote on the motion to take.
I would like to hear from Renee and Trevor what they feel.
That's out of order.
I'm
No,
sorry.
it's not. Allowing the space for every board member to have the comments that they would like to make is absolutely within order.
That is not what she did. She called out 2 board members to express
Okay,
views
well,
when they did
could
not volunteer them. That is
Okay,
different.
could we please have a comment from all board members on this policy?
That's out of order. You don't have the power to request that. If
As
they want to
voting
say
elected-
something, they have the ability to speak. They're adults. They can talk if they want to talk.
As elected voting officials of this board, we do have a fundamental right to tell and responsibility to tell our constituents why we vote, how we vote. And there has been a lot of voting without any explanation. I am also, as a voting member of this board, interested to know how and why my other 4 members are leaning and voting. That is totally appropriate to the business of this meeting.
Well, with that said, we're doing real well here together. I will say that if any other director has something to say right now, I'd like to hear it, and then we'll move into the vote.
Yeah, I'll take a few minutes to say a few things. Sometimes we do things, and in hindsight, hindsight's 20/20, right? I can only speculate is if the existing policy that we're voting on tonight had been written initially, if we would be having all the upheaval in the community. I do agree. I do agree with Director Shannon. I think that this is pretty innocuous. This only codifies what's in the law, what the recommendations that we've gotten from our legal counsel. Like Director Brown said, this, when when you think back just a few years, we didn't have these signs. And so who is the arbiter of what signs and symbols get on our school and which ones don't? I've heard stories of kids with thin blue line flags up in their Zoom camera, and they were told to take it down. I don't know what tomorrow brings, but I do know, and I do feel that school is no place for public employees pushing any particular ideological view. We're here to teach a curriculum. We hopefully can get to that and work on bettering our academic achievement, hopefully as a team. But I guess that's my thoughts on it. If I could turn back the clock, this was the policy that would have been written. It's all political signs, quasi-political signs and symbols, right? What tomorrow brings, I have no idea, but I know that the next controversy in a divided nation, whatever that symbol may be, we don't want it in the schools. We should be teaching our kids how to think. We should, I've thought a lot about this. I know that there's been a lot of animosity and stuff that's happened out in the community. There is great support for and against this. It tells me that we're divided on it. But I try to look at the positive sides on things, and we've lowered the water level, and it's really highlighted a lot of the issues. Over and over again, I hear that our schools aren't safe. That's really what I want to focus on in the future. I want to understand to what degree are our schools not safe, and what are the causes that are not making it safe. We need to address those things. If they're a real issue, we need to address them, and that's what I'm hearing over and over again from the community. Bullying should not be tolerated at all, right? But those hopefully are isolated incidents, and you address those as they come up. You don't cancel people. You try to redirect them, guide them, and help them understand the error of their ways and bring them back into the fold. But what we have done as a community and in isolated incidents is we want to cancel people. And that's really a shame. I've actually reached out to our officer to check on the student in question that was involved in the heinous activity online. I'd heard that he was suicidal. I don't know if any of the rest of you reached out to officer, who's our officer?
Moreland.
Camp. Moreland.
Technically, it's
to talk to
illegal
him.
for us to know what the repercussions are, so.
Well, I'm not talking about the repercussions.
You should not be
I'm
talking about students on this meeting.
Well, my point is that where our hearts are at should be for our students. And I don't hear anybody talking about bringing people back in the fold. We just want to cancel them. And to me, that's a shame. But getting back to my point, we're a divided community, This really just codifies what law is, what policies are in different places, and I fully support it the way it reads. I don't think we should have ever called out any one side. This is any signs now and in the future, right? And we're talking about public employees, right? There's legal precedents based on our legal counsel for doing this. The courts have upheld this stuff in other areas of the nation.
Which is how systemic racism exists.
Well, I guess we'll have to disagree on that, Director Pena, because I don't believe that there's systemic racism. If what you mean by systemic racism is it's everywhere, that's how I view that. And I don't see it. And as much as I've been called a racist because of the activities of being a board member over the past 2 months, I still don't believe that. And anybody that knows me knows that I'm not racist or homophobic. So
Trevor, can I ask you one just quick question?
sure.
So if I agree with you that we need to be bringing people into the fold, we need to be coming to consensus, we need to be having discussions around trying to better understand everybody, which is exactly what Rebecca is trying to do. So I'm confused about why you oppose this motion when that is what she has motioned to do.
Okay, I'm going to stop it there. We've had this discussion. It's not time to answer questions from other board members. We've allowed everybody to speak on this. Director Powell, do you have anything to add to that before we go to the vote?
Yeah, I hate, what this is doing to our community and to our students and staff. And I really would like us to come together and find strategies that would encourage teachers, administrators, and students to stand up to bullies, and even remind those kids that are being the bullies of their own value and responsibilities to their fellow students. If we keep on biting and devouring each other, watch out or you will be destroyed by each other. Love your neighbor as yourself. And that's in Galatians. And we're just destroying each other. And I've sat with staff on both sides and listened to them. I've sat with students from both sides and parents from both sides and have listened to them. And it is just causing division. And there's so many people that their students feel uncomfortable with the images, and there's students that don't. I mean, and I just have a hard time. We're supposed to be here for all children and making all children feel safe and welcome. And by lifting up one group or several groups over another, that's not welcoming and safe for all children. I have a really hard time understanding that. I keep asking that question over and over again. It's like, okay, so you feel like these kids are being marginalized and bullied, but that's not fair to the other kids on the other side. They're being marginalized and bullied too, whether you want to see it or not. They are, because I've heard it. They're being marginalized and bullied so much that they can't even get on and speak because they're too afraid. And, I have letters and stuff that have come in. I mean, you guys have read them yourself, the emails that have come in. I've read each one of them. I print them out on both sides and study them and do the research. And it's like, and then I've gone on Sunday, I was sat for almost 5 hours talking to a teacher and listening to her stories on how she's not being heard and how this makes her extremely uncomfortable and how it's affecting her students. So I'm hearing this firsthand from people. I'm not just sitting back and thinking of my own viewpoint or whatever. I'm trying to make it, that's what we're here for, is to be there for all students, every single one of them, and I feel that this is the best solution for that.
Well, I would like to just say one more thing, is that if we could show our students and our staff that we could come together with a standing committee, that we listen to both sides, all sides, and come together and make something that is from that discussion, rather than this policy that will be like a win for one side and a disappointment to the other side. Wouldn't it be better to make the effort beforehand to bring us together, to really listen and work together, and what an educational experience that could be for our students, that shows that we can work out a solution that's fair for everyone, rather than passing
Sorry, Rebecca.
rather
But-
than passing a policy that will definitely be not accepted by or not felt accepted by many people.
Okay, you guys, I'm gonna bring us back. We're way out of order here. So let everybody have their voice. Appreciate that. But we have motions on the floor. So let's get back to this. It's Director Shannon, we are back. We have the discussion back to when you had the policy right there, the second read.
Mr. Chair,
No.
you need to call the vote on the motion to table.
I agree. Then we also have Director Pyros
the-
who made her motion, and it was seconded by Director Pinner. So,
Nope, it was Director Pena who seconded that.
oh, sorry, my bad. I thought that was here. Okay, so we need to vote on that one, I believe, first. Dr. Pyros, we got a motion and a second.
Hey, Chair Brown,
Yes,
I think, does Tyler Smith have his hand up?
I did
That was
not.
intentional.
I did not see that.
Chair Brown, I just wanted to point out, I think procedurally, she basically made a motion to refer this to a committee, which
Right.
is different. So that's what I wanted to point out.
So we have that motion, we have that second. Correct?
Right.
Yep.
So we can vote on that one and we can move back to where Director Shannon was, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So those in favor of the motion that Director Pyros made about a superintendent's committee with 6 staff and 2 school board members, please say yes by raising your hand. Okay, that is Directors Pyros, Penner, and Pena. Got that? If you're opposed to that, please raise your hand. Directors DeHart, Shannon, Powell, and Brown. Motion fails 4-3. 3-4. All right, Director Shannon, you're back up.
All right. Yeah, so the policy language before us essentially has 2 parts. The first half is model policy language from the OSBA. And it, long and short, simply says that, teachers may express their views in the course of exploring approved curriculum, but they are not to represent those views as to be the official viewpoint of the district. The second part is also fairly straightforward. It simply says that district employees will not use district facility space to hang up symbols of their own political or ideological viewpoints. And so that is, and I'm happy to read the whole thing for the folks following along at home. That might be helpful. With your permission, Mr. Chair, I will read the proposed policy.
I think that would be good for the public there. Thank you.
Great. Policy GBG, staff participation in political activities. Employees may exercise their rights to participate fully in the affairs of public interest on a local, county, state, and national level on the same basis as any community member in a comparable position in public or private employment and within the law. All district employees are privileged within the limitations imposed by state and federal laws and regulations to choose any side of a particular issue and to support their viewpoints as they desire by vote, discussion, or persuading others. Such discussion and persuasion, however, will not be carried on during the performance of district duties, except in open discussion during classroom lessons that consider various candidates for a particular office or various sides of a particular political or civil issue. On all controversial issues, employees must designate that the viewpoints they represent on the issues are personal and are not to be interpreted as the district's official viewpoint. No employee will use district facilities, equipment, or supplies in connection with his or her political activities, nor will she use any time during the workday for such political activities. Ensuring safe environments to learn. No district employee shall, while acting within the scope of their employment, either during school hours or inside their physical area of responsibility at a school, such as a classroom, meeting room, desk area, hang post, erect, or otherwise display, hereafter display, any posters, signs, flags, banners, pictures, or other digital or physical image that depicts support or opposing relating to a political, quasi-political, or controversial topic. For the purposes of this policy, a controversial topic shall be defined as one that a professional educator could reasonably understand to have students on more than one side of said issue. For purposes of this policy, a political or quasi-political topic includes contemporary issues being debated in the local, state, or national political climate. Any person concerned with a particular display should first notify the district employee believed to be responsible for the display. Alternatively, the concerned person may file a complaint with a supervisor, school principal, or principal's designee pursuant to district policy. Notes and exceptions. This policy does not restrict in any way students' First Amendment rights, nor change policy IB or IGAC. This policy does not restrict in any way district employees' First Amendment rights when not speaking in their official capacity, nor while not on the job, or if they are not using a forum provided exclusively to them as an employee or otherwise speaking on behalf of the district. This policy does not limit nor apply to communications, nor the free exchange of ideas during the course of approved educational events or exploration of approved curriculum. Official district billboards, in-school offices, and union materials covered by collective bargaining agreements and are expressly exempt from this policy. The flags of the United States and the state of Oregon are not prohibited by this policy. So that's all the policy says. It's very straightforward. And to my mind, it should be non-controversial. We don't pay our teachers to push their political views on our students. That is not their place. Their place is to teach the approved curriculum. And that is all this policy does, is ensure that that is happening in our schools.
Well, okay, Brian, what about people who have pictures of their same-sex couple? That's a digital photo. Is that going to be controversial? And will they not be allowed to have a picture of their family with their
No.
same-sex couple?
No, I don't see how pictures of someone's family at their desk could be interpreted as that. If it were blown up and put on an entire side of the classroom, then perhaps you could make some argument about that. But
What if
a
somebody
personal photo would not qualify under this policy.
What if somebody doesn't approve of personally gay marriage and they think it's wrong, it's a sin, it's awful, so they find that controversial? Now what?
Again, a personal photo at a desk would not qualify as a statement of politics.
Okay, so being gay is not political, but being proud of being gay is political. Is that where the line is?
That's not what I said.
No, I know. I'm just trying to understand how a
No, you
same-sex
aren't.
couple could. Yes, I am, Brian. I'm trying to understand
you
how a same-sex couple can have a photo, but to have a flag, that's crossing a line that is determined by someone. We have no idea. We know that legally this policy is a wreck when it comes to any kind of actual putting it into practice. And we know that it's not about students. We know it's not about staff. We know it's about outsized extremism, political agendas. So this entire document is riddled with grammatical errors. It's not even a professional document, let alone a policy that is supposed to govern an employer of 500 people. It's going to continue to intensify this divide in our community. And that's the point. And clearly after the last vote, you four are not at all interested in bringing this community together. And I have no idea how much we really need to discuss this. It's going to be now our community, our staff, and our students who are left to fight this. I'm ready to vote.
I find it telling that you don't have any amendments to the policy.
There are so many amendments to this policy. We could go through it. This is what the policy committee is supposed to do. If you like, I'll start in the first paragraph, and I didn't even get to all of the grammatical errors. If you put this into any kind of Grammarly even app, you'll see it light up like a firework there. It is a mess. So we can sit here and do that if you'd like. I could tell you what the tip of the iceberg is. None of it's going to matter because you four have already clearly made your choice. This is not a functioning business meeting. This is an after party of 4 members. So I say, let's just vote, get it over with.
I have questions about what is controversy. What about, you said only the American flag and the state of Oregon flag. What about a POW flag? What about a military flag that someone has from this time in the service?
Well,
Is
if you
that,
read the policy, it does not say only the American flag and Oregon state flag. It expressly says that they are not covered by this policy. But it does not say they are the only things that can be hung up.
So if a pacifist walks in and sees that there's all branches of the military represented during a military fair and they find that offensive and controversial, what do they do?
If they feel the policy is being violated, they can file a complaint under this policy and it will be considered.
Okay, so who's considering all these policies? Because I have a feeling our admins are a little stretched thin right now.
The same people who would field any complaints about any issue in our schools. It is following the approved complaint procedure. We worked with the superintendent to make sure we were following the district's complaint procedure. So unless you have something to gripe about with our district's complaint procedure that we use for all other policy issues, I don't know what we're talking about.
I have nothing to gripe about a complaint procedure. I have something a lot to gripe about an illegal discriminatory quasi policy from being implemented in our district. And that's what this is about.
Just so we're clear on this, I'd like to just say, Director Penner, that in my first 2 years in the board, as you were board chair, that there were all kinds of things that I want the public to understand how this works. So if you're out there in the public right now, for my first 2 years, you led numerous different votes on all kinds of things, knowing that you had a majority of the vote and you pushed those things through. And
hey, Dave, if you want to talk about my chairmanship, you know how to get a hold of me. I think it would be
I'm fine.
for everybody to keep this on topic and on the policy.
On these.
If you want to talk about this, Dave, we can, but it's not.
I think he's just calling out your hypocrisy, Brandon.
I will tell you what, when I was on the board, I will get into it. It's fine. When I was on the board, if a board member wanted to have conversation, we did. If a board member wanted something on the agenda, they brought it before the board decided. I did not ever reach consensus with anybody in this role prior to a meeting, which is something the four of you clearly cannot say. And Dave, I wish you would have come to me and said, this is how I feel. Instead, you just didn't show up to committee meetings. And instead, you just sat there and pouted. You could have come to me. We could have had a conversation. And now what you're doing is you're clearly upset at my leadership and you're trying to be a bully about it. And it's destructive and it's not going to help anything.
That's not true. It's just,
I'm telling you how I feel about it.
All you want. That's not true.
Okay.
So, all right, we're going to move forward though. So we can talk about all these personal differences. At a different time.
I have a question. Did you read the email that Joe just sent out prior to the meeting from Lisa, the WESD lawyer's opinion on this particular policy after talking with Tyler Smith and Spencer Lewis?
I did. I got that about 5 minutes before the meeting started.
Yeah.
So there was time to do much.
Could we ask Joe to let us to share so all the board members know what, if they didn't get a chance to read it, what was recommended by Lisa?
Did you receive a copy, Director Pyros?
Yes, I did.
How come everybody didn't? I'm just curious why.
Well, it came right before
Everybody
the
did.
meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody.
I sent it about a half hour before. As I said in my email, it had been stuck in my draft, so I apologize for that. Everybody would have had a copy of it. So I think one of the big parts of it truly are about focusing on whatever's political, quasi-political, or controversial. One of the parts in there, I think the line is about students having two sides of things. And I think that's an important piece that's a challenge for us just on how we will implement this later with an AR. So an administrative regulation for the public. A policy is passed and then we develop an administrative regulation so we know actually how to manage them coming in. So Director Shannon is right. If somebody has a complaint about one of these, it would go into our normal complaint procedure. And that will be all in our administrative regulation. I think the difficulty is that we're going to have, of course, we have different people in different buildings, different leaders who will be taking these complaints. And I think one of the biggest challenges is for us to have a consistency across all the buildings about what's okay and what's not okay. Those, of course, if people don't find resolution at the place they would like to at the lowest level, which it starts at the building, then it would come to either myself or my designee to determine whether or not it's political. You know, a lot of these things come in. Director Pyros, you mentioned the MIA POW flag. There are vaccines and masks information that people find political. I don't even go into ducks and beavers. That was a joke just for a little bit thing, but there are some religions around ducks and beavers, both doing very well. But I think that one of the hardest things for us that will be defining what a controversial subject is for some and not others. It'll be very, very interesting to see what people come up with when they decide they're going to make a complaint. And so I think that's one of the things that I'm most concerned about is how that actually works on a procedural level. Just when they could have possibly different outcomes. We could see people say that it is that we're being discriminatory in our selection of those. So those are just some of the concerns that I have on an operational level. And I think especially the section that actually reads about reasonably understanding to have students on more than one side of said issue. And I think that's true for just about any issue. So I think that's one of the ones that I do have some concerns about specifically in that part of the language. But again, the operational part of it, us trying to determine what is and what is not controversial will go all the way up. I assume that they would come eventually in front of the board, as is part of our district complaint procedure. So
And
that's kind of where I'm on those. Yep. Go ahead, Trevor.
And just for clarification, so I know that we had one, I think it was a teacher sent in, maybe, I don't know if she's a teacher or part of the NEA. She made some comments about controversial subjects and policies and agreements that surround that they, you know, if it's not part of the curriculum, that they could vet that through the principal to get it part of a curriculum setting to be taught in an objective manner, right? So there is other avenues besides that. If we want to talk about issues that are controversial, right, to move those to an academic setting that's appropriate and to teach it in an objective manner where you get both sides of it, where kids can draw their own conclusions.
That's correct. And that's under the controversial topics. And we do have it under board policy. But this is more about if somebody doesn't like what they see in somebody's classroom, then they will file a complaint and then we will go have to process through the complaint. And I guess that concern that I also have is that I can see this devolving into people complaining about each other, whether it's staff against staff or whether it's students against staff. So the scope, it may be that it's just too vague in that part of it. And I know that that Tyler has mentioned a few of these things before. So that's part of what I like an operational concern. So the controversial topics, yeah, we have policy around that and we do set it up in a way because there are things that are hard to talk about with students without making everybody crazy. We do follow procedure. But again, this is going to be essentially reduced to, complaint procedure after complaint procedure. So I think that's going to be one of our biggest challenges.
And if we pass this policy, this is not going to get rid of our tort claim from NEA, is it?
I can't actually speak to whether or not that would get rid of the tort claim. I'm not qualified to speak to that legally, so I don't know if that would get rid of the tort claim or not. Yeah, I don't know if Mr. Smith has an opinion on that.
I would recommend that be reserved for when the insurance retained counsel is on the call. An executive session would probably be the best policy with regards to any predictions.
Wait, so you wouldn't know the answer to this as our attorney?
No, that's not quite what I said. I said the best time to deal with that would be an executive session, and particularly when Ms. Vickers, who was the insurance defense counsel, was hired to potentially deal with any kind of that matter, would be in a meeting. So that's an executive session litigation type meeting, not probably tonight. Would be my
The reason for that is not because you don't know the answer, but because we have to maintain attorney-client privilege.
Right, and I don't believe she's. I actually talked to her today, and she was not going to be on this meeting. Somebody from her office might be, but she was not going to be on this meeting.
Thank you.
Hey, Director Shannon, you're back up here.
I would like a point of clarification. If Joe could, because not all the board members had a chance to read Lisa's email, could he let us know what it said?
I believe that letter may also be covered by attorney-client privilege, correct, Director Morlock?
That's correct.
Morlock?
Okay, got it. Sorry.
All right. Okay, Director Shannon.
I move that we adopt policy GBG as presented.
And I would second that. All right. Well, like we've said, it's time to come to the vote on this. So if you are in favor of that policy, please raise your hand at this time. And that'll signify by saying yes. And I see Directors Brown, Shannon, Powell, and DeHart saying yes. Those opposing, please raise your hand by saying no.
Nay.
Directors Pyros, Pena, and Pinner. Motion passes 4-3. All right. Moving past that one. I lost my screen here. I know we're going back into some other stuff here. I had to turn that computer off. So I believe we're at Nikki Fowler's stage of the meeting right now. Is that correct?
No, I think we're at the
Miss Moore.
OSBA policy.
Excuse me, Dr. Powell said.
We're at the nomination for the OSBA Legislative Policy Committee.
Oh, that was for you to be nominated there. Yes, I'm
Yeah.
sorry for that. My computer screen's down, so apologize for that.
I'll
Rebecca,
move that the Newberg School Board of Directors approve the nomination of Director Rebecca Pyros for position on OSBA Legislative Policy Committee.
I second that.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your hand by saying
But you
aye.
should call for discussion.
Okay, sorry. Any discussion on that? I guess one thing, Rebecca, I'd like you to say is just kind of maybe quickly tell us what you're doing there on that, and so we're all more aware.
It's a statewide board that comes together and makes policy for OSBA, and we also work on what's going to be dealt with through OSBA on the legislative side. So we also meet once a week when the government is in session to hear what is happening with various bills and motions that affect schools.
And just to clarify, OSBA is the Oregon
The
State.
Oregon State School Board Association.
Right. I just wanted
Oregon School Board Association, yeah. And we're District 13, which includes Yamhill and Polk County.
And this will be your second year on that?
This will be my second term. I've served 2 years already.
Great. Well, thanks for doing that. And so that's the motion and the second there. And Rebecca, thanks for serving on that committee. It's a lot of extra time, I'm sure. So all board members in favor of Rebecca getting to do another year of that and nominate her, please raise your hand by saying yes. We have votes 7-0 there. Thank you very much, board. Rebecca, they'll do a great job, and we'll probably do it a work session to give us an update. That'll be fun to hear about.
All right. Thank you very much, board.
You're welcome. Okay, I believe now we're at Nikki Fowler's time.
Okay, this is pretty simple amendment to this lease. They're adding Dish Network to the cell tower property that is already there. So it means it'll increase our payment by $225 a month. So we just need a motion to approve this amendment.
I'll move that the Newberg School District Board of Directors approve a second amendment to the Oregon lease agreement with NCWPCS MPL 32, Year Sites Tower Holdings LLC, to allow the leaser, Crown Castle, to sublet to Dish Network for an additional $225 per month to the district.
I'll
I second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, raise your hand by saying yes. And we've got a 7-0 vote on that. Nikki, that one got through. Thank you. I think you got another one though.
Yeah, the next one on the agenda is updating signers on our student body accounts. One is at our Union Young Elementary and one is at Edwards Elementary. So it's just removing staff who has left us and adding the replacement staff. I need a motion approving those signers.
I'll move that the Newberg School District Board of Directors approve the amended depository account signatories as presented for the 2021-22 school year.
I second.
We have a motion, a second. If you agree, raise your hand by saying yes. And it's 7-0. Nikki, you're doing really well tonight.
I think mine are pretty simple, so that's good.
Thank you very
Thanks.
much. Anything else, Nikki, you need to share with us?
Nope, not at all.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Again, my screen's dead over there. Now we got through those three things. I believe now we go into work session. Am I correct?
Yes.
Anything there? Okay. Just so everybody knows out there in the public, we have wanted to do work sessions in the past. It just gets busy doing all the things that happen on the board. Different things pop up that like we just did, the business aspects of what Dr. Morlock needs from his staff to give to us to get things done and moving and all the business items to be done. We've kind of gotten caught up on a lot of stuff. So tonight, the first time in a work session, so the board knows this can move and shape. This is our first time. So I'd like us all to take we can all take a deep breath here. We've had an interesting meeting so far, but I'd like to change the tone here a little bit as we move forward into the first item on there was one I put on there, and I asked if there's a couple others that you guys put on there too. We can talk about the public comment, part of this. So we're not really in a situation now where I just like to have everybody take a minute. If you feel like it, you can pass if you don't want to. I will let you know that the public comments have been, we've had so many requesting, when we're in the middle of a lot of big topics. So on this one, I want to hear your guys' opinion as we're moving forward. I wanted to let you know that I have talked to Jen Nelson. We moved from a 30-minute notice to a 24-hour notice. And we also asked people to call in so we were ready for them so we can get out in front of that. And then also to have them state what the topic they were talking about. It's not to get them to say how they feel in any way, shape, or form. It's just the topic. It has been about the flags and banners has been a hot topic. There's been times in the past where I know we've had 0, 1, or 2 people call into a public comment session. We've had a lot more than that lately, and we just had a meeting where we had 46. We had 50. There were about 92, I believe, total. We dropped it to 2 minutes per person to try to get as many in as possible. And when we did that, I had a lot of feedback, some negative, some positive, on how we chose those people, or how I chose. And it was the same thing when we had 10 speakers at the previous regular business meeting, which we can talk about time frames that people speak, how many we're trying to do. If we move those toward the end of the meeting, that maybe we can stretch out our time frames a little bit more. But my goal was to bring some balance to a really tough conversation out there in our community at this time. And that was to get both sides represented. And I like the meeting for myself because I like to listen to all people out there. It went back and forth, and I did that on purpose, just so we could get people to stay engaged and listen. And probably my biggest thing is was to get people to hear and listen. Maybe, just maybe, they might have heard something from somebody that they wouldn't normally agree with, to get a chance to speak. 2 minutes is pretty quick, and then sometimes 2 minutes is a long time. 46 people was a lot of people. I thought Jen was really working hard there to get them, on there. It's not as easy as in Zoom. And then Vince Adams from OSBA, it was great to have somebody be the moderator on that. So with that said, if you don't mind, let's try to go fairly quickly, but, take a minute and just, as we're moving forward, we'll be back into another regular board meeting. So we have a limited amount of time. And if we look at moving that time to the end, I've asked Dr. Joe that if we can speed up some of our things we do at the first meeting when he has presentations, like Nikki tonight, she's pretty quick. If we do have something that's really important, we'll take whatever time we need to make sure Dr. Joe's staff has the time they need. And then as we move towards the second part of the meeting, we might be able to get more speakers in, timeframes and all that. So with that said, I'm just going to call on, I'm going to go with Director DeHart. What do you think on the public comments? What's your thoughts?
Well, of course, I haven't been on the board that long, but my thought when you had initially changed stuff, it was my understanding that in the past people would go in order in which they signed up. I don't think that that's necessarily fair, just because people have different work schedules. They may not be able to get on there, exactly at 24 hours in advance. So I like the fact that it's not based on chronological order in which people sign up. I like having a mix of people, because I think that that's important to hear from both sides of the aisle, and no matter what the subject is, right? So
okay, okay, there you go. Director Pena, what's your thoughts?
I think that students should be our priority, and then staff, and then parents, and then community members. If we're not going to do it by the order in which folks signed up, then we should definitely hear student voice, as we are governing the district that is serving them and their education. So in my opinion, students should be heard first, always.
Okay. Director Shannon, what's your thoughts?
In terms of who we let go first, I don't necessarily have any problem with letting students go first. I think it's important to hear from a broad range of stakeholders on, both sides of a given issue. I think sometimes we approach public comments like people are dropping stones into a bucket and doing some sort of direct democratic voting, and that's really not what it is. To me, it's to hear all the sides of any given argument so that we can make the best informed decision that we can. And so I think the changes that you put in place for the last meeting helped facilitate something that approximated that.
Okay. Director Pinner.
Yeah, I agree with Director Pena in that we are elected by constituents to serve the students of our district. And as such, students, staff, parents, and community members' public comments should be organized in that priority. I think if you move comments to the end of a meeting, you are, I don't know if it's intentional or not, but my fear is that it will help silence students who maybe can't make it till 10 or 11 o'clock at the end of a public meeting, especially on a Tuesday night. Also, the board doesn't need to know what side of an issue, whatever the issue is chosen by the chair, the requester is on. Yeah, you don't need to say how you feel. We have to listen to the people that we're serving. I think at the last meeting, it was outrageous at the last listening session on Wednesday that people from outside of our district and potentially even outside of our state, people from multiple households and extremists who flash white supremacy symbols, those people took time away from our students. We had students and staff and parents and community members who were unable to speak because those people took the space. And I don't think that that should ever, ever happen. We had students that were crying. We had people who have tried for repeatedly to get on and they were unable to. So I think that by prioritizing it, students, staff, parents, community members, if we don't have time to hear everybody, at least we can hear students. At least hopefully we can hear staff. I don't think that anonymous comments need to be accepted. I think that we have seen incredibly courageous and brave students and staff come before us, often at great emotional expense, and they redo it again and again and again. And then to try to say that anonymous letters are on the same level, I think is disrespectful and ingenuous.
Okay. Director Powell.
Yeah, I think last week with the people calling in, I think I felt like we had a good representation of how the public feels. And it was nice to hear both sides. I have to disagree though with Brandy with the anonymous people, because there's so many parents and students and staff members that I've talked to that cannot talk, and they wanted to have a voice, and I think that's why some of those people were able to be their voice, just like I'm hoping to be their voice as well. I mean, we've had letters that come in that have said I can't speak for fear of the record, of what could happen to them. And staff members have voiced that same concerns to me that I have met with. So I think it's only fair that they can also have a voice without having fear of being attacked or bullied themselves, and especially the students. We've talked to a couple of students that we tried to get them to come on and they were terrified. It's like, no, there's no way I'm going to come on and speak. So that's my take on it.
Okay. No, I appreciate that.
Yeah, if I could just chime in on that, Director Brown, I think we need to find ways, because there are people who have expressed that they're not comfortable coming forward to us. I think we need to explore avenues where we can facilitate those people getting their voices heard, not shut them down.
Okay. Well, I challenge all of you to, the reason we're talking right now is just this, I mean, we all, I don't think there's any doubt that we all want to hear public comments.
Wait, did everyone go? I have more comments, but I want to make sure that everybody else goes.
No, I wasn't done there yet. Yeah, I'll let you go again. I was just trying to go through it. Yeah, I just like the discussion for all you guys to go. But I have not heard from Director Pyros, but Director Pena will come back around if we have another round of that. Okay. Rebecca, do you have anything to say now?
Yes, I agree that I feel that it should be students first, staff, because they are most affected by what we do, and then parents of students, and then the community members. And I was just trying to figure out who didn't speak last time when I asked for the spreadsheet. I wasn't criticizing you. I just, because people sign up, I want to know who signed up. And looking at that, there were 47 people who had signed up who didn't get to speak, and 24 people were against the ban. 11 people were for the ban, and 12 people wanted to talk about something else. So when you talk about being balanced, you're trying, that's really not a balance of or a fair representation of the people who wanted to speak. It was an equal. And so it sounds like there is equal sides. But according to the people who'd signed up to speak, there was a larger majority of people against the ban than for it. And that we have to also make sure that we don't have people who end up speaking every meeting. We want to hear from people, but if there is a large group of people needing to speak, we need to listen to new voices also. And that was a bit disappointing in the last two meetings, where some people were allowed to speak who'd been given the opportunities to speak in several other meetings. So I also want to volunteer to help support you. And if you're going to be selecting who's going to speak, that you turn to the fellow board members to help you. I'm willing to help you to make sure that this is really balanced and reflective of the people who are wanting to speak.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think when I say balanced, I mean, I think it was time for us at that time. I liked it because we did have both sides represented pretty equally. When we look at, I don't ever look at this as like I think Brian said it earlier, it's like, it's not a numbers political game where we're going for votes here. I think if I'd have just pulled them straight out of a hat, like say a bingo game, you know, it could have been more one-sided than the other. I mean, you know, the odds of picking somebody out. I did try to pick almost all the students, you know, that signed up. We had 18%. Actually, ended up being a little bit more than that because we had 4 people not be able to get through.
Mm-hmm.
So we did hear from a lot of students, and so I tried. Rebecca, you asked for that, so I tried to do that one. That was a priority. Also, people that had called in, there were a couple staff members that had spoke throughout the year several times, and so try to let other staff members, you know, speak on that one. People that hadn't seen their names on there, tried to let them slide in there and speak. We had a lot of new voices that I had never heard before. So that was kind of the reason behind that. Rebecca, I'll tell you what, let's do it. Next meeting, you and I sit down and let's put this thing together. We'll meet Sherry's, get a piece of pie, and let's go through this list together. I'm totally open for that. I don't want this to be, I wanted this talk to be just like this, that we can get to this public comment thing and make this as good as we possibly can. So if you're up for it, I'm up for that.
All right.
So let's do that. I think, you know, when people are calling in, a couple questions after you guys, maybe this will be a little bit quicker response from you guys. So the time frame, I had somebody suggest that, you know, when we don't have very many speakers, we've gone 3 minutes. 3 minutes can be an eternity. 3 minutes can be pretty quick. I had somebody say, well, 2 minutes was quite a long time. Sometimes it depends on, you know, your perspective, who you're listening to. That was kind of my attempt at Mr. Morlock's humor there about the ducks and beavers, but we could reduce that down to 1 minute. We could just sit back and say, okay, we could have got through a whole lot more people because the numbers are high. At least people get their voice heard. They can't do the Gettysburg Address, but they can have a minute to say, I feel this way. And that might help us to get through a bigger group of people, especially when we're in a regular board meeting and we're limited on time. So I'm open. How do you guys feel? I'm just going to go right down the list. Rebecca, you're kind of to my right. Would you be open if we have a lot of people sign up to go to 1 minute, maybe 2 minutes? What do you think?
I think the 2 minute is also you get the feel of what the person is, but I would like to hear from our constituents, you know. I'm
Time frame though, what would you pick?
I would pick 2 minutes.
Okay.
I would say if we need to go longer, let's go longer.
Director Penner, you're next one over on my screen here. I'm just asking, what would you pick, 1, 2, or 3?
I think 2 is a minimum. Yeah.
Okay. Director Shannon.
I think it's dependent on how many people you have signed up. You know, at the end of the day, we do need to be able to get through the business of the meeting. But if we don't have a lot of people signed up, I'd say give them 3 minutes. And if we're crunched for time, because we have a lot of people signing up, give them 2. I wouldn't go below 2 minutes just because it's hard to express anything in less than 2 minutes.
Okay. Director Pena.
I would also say 2 to 3 minutes, depending on how many folks are signed up to speak.
Okay. Director Powell.
Yes, I would agree. Like 2 minutes, not less than 2 minutes, but if we have time to do 3 minutes, then that'd be great.
Okay. Director DeHart.
Yeah, I think 2 minutes is good. I think we saw in this one that, when you're given, a time frame like that, it forces the individual to kind of practice. And it looked like some people had practiced and were polished to get their stuff in the 2 minute period. I think if you go beyond that, it could get kind of lengthy and maybe we don't get as many people in. I would be open to extending that maybe to 3 minutes, depending on how many people we have to speak. I would like to say one other thing. I would like to piggyback on what Director Penner said, and that is, I think you said not letting people speak outside of the community. I think we do need to keep our public comments within the community. Like Brian said, the stakeholders, right? So.
Okay. No, I appreciate that. I guess coming from my background in business coaching, if you can't, make a presentation to, if I'm working for Shiloh there in the food industry and I can't make a presentation in 1 minute, there's a problem. But I know that's private business. You got to get stuff in and out and done. But I kind of like the 2 minute thing. I didn't think it hurt too many people to polish up and get it done. If we only have 5 speakers like we've had in the past, I'm all for extending that time out. I would say, like, as we're picking those people to come in and speak, it's not that easy. I thought Jennifer did a really good job putting a form together that tells us who the people are. The person who did the tell me if I'm wrong here. I missed this because sometimes I'm taking notes, but the gentleman that made the improper hand signal.
From McMinnville.
Yeah, he said he lived in McMinnville, but I thought I heard him say, because it was on his form, I thought too, where he had children. Don't know what the family situation's like, but he had 2 children in Newberg. That's what I thought I heard. Did I miss that? I mean, I don't know if I did or not. I don't know if I can go back and watch the thing on that. So. Again, that's what I thought I heard, that he had 2 kids there. I think that did have several comments from people who said they did like the back and forth, because on a tough subject, I think we have to, hear both sides. Again, I don't look at it as like if we have 100 people call in and 70 are, for the ban or not for the ban, that's a directive. I just think it's the public comments is for letting the people share. I learned a lot. I did. I enjoyed it. It was 2 hours. I liked the fact that we got it done in about 2 hours and 7 minutes. I really enjoyed having Ben Adams there. I mean, it was nice to sit back and not have any responsibilities running the stopwatch. That was great. I know a couple of you guys have had to do that, and that's really not very much fun. So I'm not sure if that cost us dollars or something. That's something I can talk to Dr. Joe about how that worked out with him. But so anyway, I appreciate you guys talking about this.
You mentioned the back and forth, and the fact that there was picking involved and it was set up in the back and forth, I'm interested in hearing maybe from Anne, like, what is the trauma that happens from being on this emotional roller coaster of up and down? Because it wasn't pleasant for me.
Why is that?
Going up and down is an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah, I mean, would it work better to have like say if people felt a certain way to listen to all in a continuous string?
Part of not having the for or against on the form would be helpful, and just hear folks however they come and in the order of students, staff, parents, community.
I just say going back in the past after the anti-racism vote, there would be 20 people calling me names, and it was like nobody came to my, there was no other voices there for a couple months. I mean, so I think that it's uncomfortable when you're hearing that, but I don't understand. I guess I'm still missing the point where the back and forth thing is.
Did we shut anyone out from being able to speak back with the anti-racist resolution? From my understanding, no, but Brandy, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, and at that time, there was no indication of where anyone stood on anything as part of the public comment form that they filled out. So as chair, I did not know where people stood until they started their comments.
I think we got a little bit more civil with this one. It was a lot nicer than what I had to experience. I still would like to know, like when we go back and forth, it's like, obviously if we like one side of a person's comment, but if we that's one of the things we talked about, we've got to hear all sides of this, or we're just never gonna get to any kind of consensus though. I mean, so I guess I'm still
right, and I'm not opposed to hearing all sides. What I'm opposed to is selecting them and placing them in that specific order of back and forth, because it is an emotional roller coaster.
So would you have gone like 3?
I would have gone students, staff, parents, community.
Okay. That's a tough one. I guess I don't agree. I think it's I liked going back and forth because it was like, okay, but that's just me. Everybody gets their own opinion here.
Well, it was hard to hear a student just say, this isn't politics, this is humanity, this is my life. He was pleading with us to listen to that he is validated as a person, and then the next person just said the opposite. And that back and forth, your emotions, and to think of what that student went through versus the person who was so anti having him feel validated. That is traumatic.
Isn't that a two-sided type of situation though?
Well, yeah. And then that person, that other person also was probably feeling traumatic because their viewpoint was different than the two people in between them.
I guess I'm trying to line that up. I'm not trying to argue with you guys. I'm just trying to line it up how we could have done it in a way where, say, one of the students like that, your example, wouldn't have felt like they weren't validated. I mean, I appreciate that comment, Rebecca, because I had a coach that I worked with a long time ago, and that was our biggest thing, was validating every single player we had. And I mean, that was a big deal. So I like that word. I think it goes back to, for me, again, if we're going to have students speak, I mean, I had somebody, say middle schoolers, speaking, I mean, are we, they're on YouTube and that kind of stuff. I mean, I had somebody kind of complain about that, and I was like, I hadn't even thought about that. I mean, they got on there and spoke and did a good job and stuff, but they were concerned about just that age group being on the YouTube. So everybody's got a different kind of take on it. I guess I'm still trying to get back to how if we don't go back and forth, if we go in groups or we just pick them out of a hat, we just, I don't like just the first person sign up type thing, because then we end up with maybe repeat, speakers. And then when we get down to it, like our next meeting, you guys, Rebecca, we can talk about this more, but, for sure, guys, give input. Like, now we're back to say 2 minutes. If we don't go 3, if we go 2 minutes and we take, we're around 40 minutes, that's 20 speakers, so we're back to that time frame. So, again, selecting those people coming in. I totally agree though. I do like the forum. I thought Jennifer did a good job trying to, the people out of town, for sure. It's like, we need people out there to treat our kids nice, treat our schools nice. And we really don't need, that one. I'm more of a parent person because I think they're the ones that drive our school district, pay the taxes, have to make decisions on their kids. I think we have a problem we have to talk about as a board. Maybe next work session we can talk about this, but when it comes to students and staff, we have an issue that was brought up and by Director Powell, that we have students and staff who will not call in because they don't feel safe. And working in the schools, I know that to be true for staff. And that's something I don't know. We're going to have to really look at that because we've had certain staff call in a lot. And we've had certain, we haven't had that in students because they haven't been, added that. But staff, we've had a lot of staff call in. It's generally, it's an issue we're going to have to address. How do we get people to call in and say stuff when they don't feel safe?
And I think that's one of the points, since Inez invited me into the conversation, that is one of the points she was trying to make, Dave, and you just said it yourself. It's hard to get people to call in. So when we have students call in and they are telling their story, and then you have the next person come in and have a very different viewpoint and somewhat aggressive attacking viewpoints, it is re-traumatizing for that student every single time. And if they're watching the entire board meeting and it is going back and forth, we're doing the same thing. So I think figuring out a different system would be a great idea.
Okay. Well, I mean, we could have 2 different public comment sessions, I don't know how else to, with those students.
We talk about teaching our kids critical thinking, and part of that is being able to listen to both sides of the debate. So if they can't do that without feeling traumatized, we're doing something wrong. And it reminds me of John Hyatt's book, The Coddling of the American Mind. That's what I think we're seeing in this discussion.
It's ironic though, because we just heard from Renee that there's so many anonymous people who just feel super in danger of even coming. So which is it? Are we teaching resiliency or are we going?
That's because if a certain viewpoint speaks up, they're attacked by a Facebook mob.
Okay. Yeah. And I think our students may have felt attacked when that person flashed a white supremacist symbol.
Well, that was unfortunate, and hopefully we can.
Yeah, it was more than unfortunate. It was incredibly traumatizing and damaging to, I'm assuming, our students of color.
I don't disagree.
Yeah. I think just not knowing where people land, we don't need to do a litmus test of how do you feel about whatever issue you're coming in on. We're just there to listen. And if you take out that section of it, you don't have to then worry about trying to stack and organize and figure out logistically how to do it. It is a more organic process.
Again, I have spent a lot of my life coaching kids, and I hear what you're saying. On one hand, we're saying we want to protect the kids. On the other hand, we want them to be ready for the real world. So, again, that's why we're talking tonight, though. And I appreciate you stepping in there. We're gonna have to find a way to maybe make this happen. Maybe we have just a student only, part of the public comments. I personally think that if we want to get a balance on the students, though, we're going to have to find a way and be creative maybe on this. Maybe it's not something we do in public comments. We try to get them to have a letter, a statement or something that can be read. And so, because they don't feel safe. So we have kids that don't feel safe on both sides. We got to, try to get your creativeness out there and how we can try to represent, kids on both sides of this issue. Certainly with adults, for me anyway, they need to be tough enough to to go in, but I do know that a staff member who gets their paycheck from the Newberg School District doesn't want to lose their paycheck from the Newberg School District. They want to be able to go to work and do stuff. So I think when it comes to students and staff, we're gonna have to really look at this. So I challenge all of us to look at that and at least we got the ball rolling down this conversation on public comment. So think about that one. Try to get back at me with some solutions on that. I think that's our best way moving forward from this conversation. I appreciate all your guys' comments on this because Rebecca, I'll email you tomorrow. Let's make a plan for this next board meeting so we can figure out how we're gonna get that list from Jennifer, and we'll get that. So if nothing else comes out of this meeting, Director Pyros and Director Brown can work together on this. So that's a good thing. Got through that one. Our next one on that list was, I believe, something that was kind of talked about in our agenda meeting with Dr. Morlock, Brian, Director Shannon, and I with Board Secretary Jennifer, was October meetings. Getting your guys' feedback on October. Still kind of everything's pretty hot and heavy right now. Staying in Zoom in October makes it easier for probably Dr. Morlock and his staff. I think if Dr. Joe, if I say this wrong, help me out from that meeting. But I did speak with Police Chief Kosmicki. He kind of liked that the other day. Dr. Joe, I haven't had time to, I was going to call you that day and I just didn't have time to tell you his feedback on that. He thought that was a pretty good idea. So asking your guys' opinion, that's just October, kind of taking it 1 month at a time here. There was one suggestion that kind of makes a little sense, and I brought it up to Dr. Joe, Brian, and Jennifer, was we could go in person and do Zoom for the public. That was just one thing that might work. But again, I'm going to go to Director Pyros first. What's your thoughts on October?
I would not be able to attend publicly because of my health and my husband's health.
Okay.
We're until this variant is under control, I would not feel safe. I appreciate the Zoom meetings.
Okay. Perfect. Director Pinner, what's your thoughts?
I'm open to following the will of the board.
Okay, either way. Okay, Director Shannon.
I think the conservative thing is to stay virtual for now.
Okay. Director Pena.
I would appreciate continuing to stay virtual, as I too have health conditions and people that I care about and their health conditions that I would worry about. And unless I can know that everyone in the room is going to be vaccinated and with a mask, then I wouldn't feel safe being there.
Okay. All right, Director Powell.
Yeah, I like, right now, I think on Zoom is good, because right now I'm in Arizona and I'm able to talk to you.
Oh, wow.
I just had another granddaughter before. So I'm here in Arizona seeing my grandkids. So yeah. So it's great having this Zoom thing, because it's nice when you do travel or you're gone. So anyway.
Congrats on the grandbaby, Renee.
Congratulations, Grandma.
Thanks.
You're done. You're out. Okay, Director DeHart.
Just stay with Zoom.
Okay. I'm
actually in Tahiti right now. Probably can't tell. I carry my flag wherever I go.
I wish I was in Tahiti. I agree with Director Pinner. I'm good with whatever you guys decide to do on this. I think it's something that obviously there's a lot of moving parts for not only us, but Dr. Joe, and with everything going on, it might just be simpler to stay in Zoom. So kind of one day at a time on that issue. And so I think that's if we're all good with that. Any other comments on that one? Everybody good? So we'll stay in October at the second meeting and next work session in there. We'll just get another vote for November, just to make sure everybody's still kind of cool on that. So I'll be thinking about that. I think the next thing on that list, help me on that one, you guys, again. I think we're at is it pronouns? Is that where we're at?
Is.
It is. Director Pena, I believe you kind of brought this up a little bit, if you're comfortable saying something about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, please go ahead.
So one of the reasons why I wanted to bring this up is because I keep hearing gendered language. And what I mean by that is we say you guys, and I say we because I'm included in this board. So I'm using the we collective. You guys a lot. And that makes it seem like, at least who I identify as a woman, and I use pronouns as she, her, and ella, which is the Spanish version, it disregards my existence when I just hear you guys. So it acknowledges, if we use non-gendered language, that there are other genders present. So instead of saying you guys, maybe we can say you all, folks, team. There's other ways of addressing all of us. And then the other part, which is pronouns, and why it's important, because it's important not to assume how folks want to identify. And there's ways we can ask, or have folks voluntarily say, or like I have been doing since the beginning, I put it as my name, and you can easily rename yourself if you choose to. But I do have Inés Peña, ella, she, her, because those are my preferred pronouns. So yeah, this will get the conversation started. There's definitely videos on this, but if we want to move in the direction of welcoming an inclusive board, then this is one way we can do that, by getting rid of the gendered language and using non-gendered language.
Well, normally I let you guys all go first. I'm going to go first on this one because, and as I had Ann Zeal send me something after last meeting. I think it was Ann. I see it now. And she kind of explained a little bit of that to me, which was helpful. I apologize if I said you guys. I know I do that all the time. And the last thing I want to do is make anybody feel uncomfortable with that comment. It would be helpful to me, and as if you could maybe send an email, at least to me, but maybe the board, and just say, hey, here's what you just kind of said, so we have it written down. It's something that we can all look at, and it would, y'all. I mean, went to Texas last year, and I heard that about 8 billion times. If that's going to work, I'll work on that one. So I don't want to do something to
Yeah,
say,
absolutely. I'll send over a video. I have a 2-pager guide. And if you want, we could even have a guest speaker at one of our work sessions that could explain this in detail. I'm sure that folks would be happy to share more knowledge.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you're open to a call, I'll call you on that one and we can have that chat. I appreciate that. I'm going to jump up. Inez, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I'd like to hear from other folks and hear if there's any questions or comments, as I will be sending this information to the entire board.
Gotcha. Thank you for sharing all that. Keep popping around. Shiloh keeps popping around on my screen here. I got to get him held down on. I don't know where my cameras are working there. So I'm going to go backward this time. I'm going to go Director DeHart. Any comments on that?
No, I can appreciate that. It's hard to get out of these habits that we've, developed over decades. So if I use the you guys, please forgive me and remind me. I'll try to get a Texas drawl and use y'all like Director Brown.
Kind of like y'all. I don't know if it's, I don't care if it's out of order here. I'm going to, since Ann kind of helped me out, Ann, do you have a comment on this?
Sorry, trying to get my button off of mute.
That's okay. Dr. Joe does all the time. It's okay.
I think it's going to take, it always takes a little while to build that new habit, I want to call it, if we have a habit of using certain terminology. So, I mean, as said, there's different ways you can say things. So you can say everybody, you can say team members, you can say friends, you all. It just depends on what you're comfortable saying and using, I think.
Okay. No, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Director Powell.
Hi, y'all. Oh, no, fine. Yeah, and Nez, I would like to get more information on that because I don't understand the pronouns at all. So I would like to learn more about that so I can be more educated on that. So,
Okay.
thank you, and I'm sorry if I've ever said anything. I don't think I've ever said you guys, but anyway, thank you.
Director Shannon.
Yeah, I just have to pick a bone of contention on this. You know, I looked up you guys in Merriam-Webster dictionary, and it is not gender. It simply refers to a group of more than one person. It is not specific to a gender. And frankly, Inez, I don't think you get to define what a group of people gets called. And I really don't like this sort of policing of speech that the left is doing right now. And I'm not going to play the pronoun game. So that's all I'll say.
Okay. Director Pinner.
Sorry, I'm still reeling from the policing of speech and being against it when that's exactly what that entire policy that was just passed this afternoon seeming did. I think it's incredibly important as personal as people and as leaders that we continue our professional and our personal growth. And we, like Renee said, we learn and we continue to evolve as humans and who we are, and understanding more of others' experience is always incredibly important and impactful. So I support the work.
Okay. Thank you. Director Pyros.
I just want to thank Inez for bringing this up. I know it's important to many people, and I want to learn as much as I can. I think we as school board members are to show our willingness to learn new things also.
I know I got to go first, but I'm just going to add my thoughts. Thanks for all those comments, you guys. You know, I would say this is a great kind of segue into, you know, like we talked about earlier, you know, finding common ground, trying to have discussions in a way that's not attacking, not bullying, not hate filled, not Facebook worrying, not, you know, any of this stuff. I just think it's, I don't wake up in the morning wanting to, you know, hurt somebody's feelings. I really don't. Do I? Yeah, I'm sure I do. I just think it's overall, if any community is still listening at this late time of night at 8:48, you know, kind of the message I wanted to get across to you guys was it's time to do like this. You know, let's talk. We don't have to agree even on this, but we can talk, we can discuss, we can calm down. We can, I think Director DeHart said, you know, the water level is lower. We can start that all right now. And I think the community, if you're listening, you know, the time to listen a little more and maybe a little bit less rough speech is now. We've never needed it more, and it is everywhere, but we're focusing on Newberg. We're the Newberg School Board. So I'll just you know, complete it with this with Director Inez. We laughed the other night. We were talking, I forget how that worked out, because we both like to snack during, you know, in-person board meetings. And since we don't have board meeting, you know, we have to, we don't get to snack as much. I think it's something we really have in common. So I'd say let's find the things we can find in common and try to get away from the things that are dividing us. So I appreciate everybody participating in that conversation. I think we have you know, we're at 8:50. You guys got time enough for a few more minutes, or are you ready to call it a night? Tell me, what are you guys thinking? I know Director Powell's got to get to a granddaughter. Dr. You know,
Go ahead, sorry.
No,
I
no,
was
go
just
ahead.
gonna say, if we continue, a short bathroom break would be great, but also if we stop, I'm not sure. These are, the last two topics are pretty big, and I don't know that,
Yeah.
10 minutes is good.
I kind of agree. I think this is a good stopping point for me. If you guys are cool with that, appreciate you guys. Let's try to come back with a regular meeting. Director Pyrus, I'll be calling you on pretty quick here. I'll try to get to you tomorrow so we can make a plan. Okay.
All right. All right.
Director DeHart, you have something?
Yeah, I guess before we leave, were the last two subjects. One was board meeting efficiency, is just talking about how we're running the meetings. Is that the gist?
Yeah, it's just, again, you know, we never really had that discussion. I've been looking at a lot of boards around the state, watching how they do things. There's definitely many different ways boards, how they run their meetings, you know, the order of how they do things. So we can, that was kind of going to be that conversation. So maybe give that some thought, and we can email back and forth maybe a little bit. And if you have any ideas on that, or you come across something. So that was that gist of that. Yes.
And then the last one was all students are important.
Yeah.
Are we going to move both of those to the next meeting, or what's the plan with those?
Yeah, we definitely want to get some training in there. Hopefully we'll keep the, you know, the business parts of this, you know, less, so we can get some topics. And I really challenge all you guys to come back with like talking about some of the stuff we talked about tonight. We got some good discussions going, but it doesn't have to stop right there. It could get into, you know, educational things like mathematics, and it can get into things like special ed. And we can have Ann come back and make a presentation to us. Things like that could happen in that session. So getting to dive into it a little bit deeper. And if for example, if she was going to be there, I've worked around special ed as a backup. I learned a lot, but I certainly don't have it down pat. So I think we talked about this. I remember Director Mock talked about this over a year and a half ago. And I think Director Pyros is part of that too. We were saying, how do we get a little bit deeper into some of these topics? And that's what I'm talking about here. So if it was special ed, if Ann was there, we could, she's supposed to be the expert. We'll put her on the Mountain Dew hot seat and make her ask the question. Then Dr. Joe can see if she did it right. So that was huge.
And then one last thing, Dave, were we still going to get on the agenda, I guess, in the future, school assignments? I know that we've talked about that in the past.
Boy, with everything going on, let me get with Dr. Joe on that one and see how he's really feeling about that, with everything going on with COVID and everything. It's definitely different than it was when I first got on the board, and see what he's comfortable and his staff are comfortable with. Dr. Joe, do you want to speak to that at all? Maybe just a quick response to that.
Quick response. We really haven't been focusing on that because we're doing food and transportation and trying to keep this thing running. Secondly, in order to go into the building past the office, you'd all need to be vaccinated. So we would have to do a vaccination status check. So that would be part of the process like we do for all of our volunteers. So you'd be under that same role. But we haven't done that right now. We're just trying to keep the ball rolling right now and keeping people, we don't actually have other volunteers or visitors coming in because we're trying to keep it as locked down as possible for now.
So anything that would have to happen would be more likely to be a phone call or Zoom.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can certainly set about something like that.
Okay. Trevor, that answer your question?
Yeah, no, that would be great.
Okay. Dave,
Yes, go ahead.
do we have any news about our student representatives?
We did have a good session there. It was Director Pena, Director Powell, and myself, and Jennifer Nelson was part of that, the four of us. We had 4 candidates. Thanks for bringing that up, by the way. We are going to try to get those set by the second meeting. Director Pena, had a good point. We're definitely way late on this for this year because of everything that's happened. So instead of looking backwards, we will have those representatives. I will contact each of you with some of the stuff we talked about in that meeting. And we wanted, I think it was, and Nez, tell me if I'm wrong, I think it was like October 25th, 6th or something like that, that we would have them be voted in. We had 4 candidates. Obviously, it's very anonymous who they are. We don't have any names or anything more than just some of the things they're involved in. So we don't have details about, who they are. I think we had grades on there, didn't we? Renee and Inez, we did know what.
We had grade, yeah. And we were going to interview all 4 of them since we only have 4. And I think Jen was going to schedule those interviews so we can look at all of the candidates. Since we only had 4, we thought that would be a good way to handle it. So
that is correct. I've been in contact with them. I am receiving schedules from them right now to see if I can arrange dates that work for the committee as well as the students.
Okay.
Great, thanks.
Jen. Yeah, I mean, is there anything to add to that?
I mean, if folks want to take a look, I believe it was also these meetings should be public, right, Jen?
Oh, when we do the interview?
Yes. Well, I don't know.
No, the meeting that we just had.
Correct. The committee meetings are public and there is a recording on the meetings and agenda page.
Yeah. But not the interviews, right? No.
I don't believe so. I don't know how it's been handled in the past, but.
Right. So we're going to give those different, obviously, to be over Zoom, not in person, but we still have, those 4, and the personnel committee will do those interviews, and hopefully at the next meeting, we'll get that on the agenda and be able to give you guys an update and our recommendation. So yeah. And somebody's going to say something there?
Yeah, I was going to say, since we are on the topic of committees, I'm interested in hearing about the equity committee and all the others.
Well, we have policy, we have personnel, and we have, facilities. We don't really have anything on equity committee yet. We haven't put anybody there, hasn't started. So there's no really update there. That's definitely something that a discussion happen if it's ad hoc or however we're going to do that. The facilities, I know, Jennifer, we're working on a meeting for that one coming up, I believe, aren't we? Think we
currently I'm only working on policy committee and personnel. I have not yeah. Okay. If you would like me to start on that, I can start on that.
Yeah, I thought we talked about that, but yeah, definitely that one. And then as far as the personnel committee goes, I think what I'd like to see is if, just because somebody's on a committee, if you have a suggestion, send an email, ask a question, get a little bit more dialogue going back and forth, especially like when we're looking at, say, these interviews with the kids. If you have a question you want to have us ask the students, send an email so we can make sure we, can look at that. So, all right, you guys, it's a miracle, but it's 8:59. If we adjourn this thing right now, you can tell your family there that you're done before 9 o'clock. So that's a miracle. So are you guys good to go? I'll adjourn the meeting now.
Good night. Everybody have a good night.